There we go. I think we are live. Let me know if audio, I think audio is working quite a bit before I had video set up. I'm forgetting major stuff today. I'm half asleep. So functioning, it's a challenge. Oh, weird. My ears just started ringing. That's not going to be annoying at all. Welcome. Today we are, excuse me. Today we are going to be going over some of your, oh, good. Thanks, Nick. Going to be going over some of your artwork and doing a critique of that and just giving you some advice that I would be giving my own students. So don't take any of my advice as this is the only way to look at this. This is the only opinion. This is just an outside. Gibson, you're not coming in here. Go lay down. Go on. Go lay down. Greyhound wants in. These are just bits of advice that I would give to anyone who asked me. But like I said, mine's not the only way to look at it. Art is very subjective. So hopefully these tips will help you in your own work. So even if I'm not critiquing your paintings, maybe they can give you some tips that can help you with your work as far as design, what works, what doesn't work, that sort of thing. But again, I'm not the end all of art opinions. Sometimes you will do something that somebody else doesn't like, but you like it. And that's really what matters because it's your work. You want that uniqueness to you. So take what you want from this, leave the rest, and there we go. And don't be discouraged by anything either. If you just, some people get very, they feel very down if somebody didn't love everything about their, excuse me, about their work. I'm having major allergy issues, tired, coughing, just these allergies make me cough like crazy. So anyway, I apologize if I'm coughing through this. So, and my voice is still recovering, I think, from Aquashella. But anyway, don't let any of the advice that I'm giving you get you down at all. It's just advice on how you can improve or take your work to the next level. So the first thing I actually want to show you guys is I do have, oh yay, Alicia has coffee. I have iced tea today. I'm being weird. But the first thing I wanted to show you, just because I'm excited, I designed this next lesson. So the next lesson on Patreon is going to be a two-parter. If you guys followed along with last week's lesson, I had a beginner's lesson on a sun conure. I'm doing the same sun conure and showing you how to make that same design or same, reference photo, and how do we take that further then? So we did the beginner lesson. How do we make it more advanced? So this is, before I get started on the critiques, just because it's, whoop, no, that's not the right button. There we go. So this was the design. It's going to be the same sun conure, branches different, just a different layout. We'll talk about that in the lesson, why this, the difference in that. But I've also got some bromeliads. These are some of my own bromeliads that are in I don't know how to say that. It's a pretty plant that kind of looks like a flower, very bright color. That will be, they're from the San Isabel dark frogs, the ones that you guys hear chirping all the time. Those are from their vivarium. So where I'm going to be doing that, I'm going to be showing you how to use masking fluid. If not masking fluid, then Frisket. I'm not sure which I'm going to go with for sure yet. I think masking fluid, if I've got any that's in good condition. If it's not, we'll go with the Frisket. But I'm going to airbrush the background, so that would be definitely a more advanced method to go with. But you could do watercolor, you could do whatever you want. And then we're going to be using colored pencils on the rest of it. It's a bigger piece. It's a 16 by 20. So we're getting a lot more detail than we got on last week's lesson. Anyway, super excited about that. I love how the layout came. I love, I can just see how it's going to look with these bright red. It's going to be gorgeous. So anyway, that is coming up. So let's go ahead and get started on the critiques. The first one comes from Ashley. So here is her work. Let me pull up what she said about this in over on MeWe. She said, "Hi, this is Ashley Stone. This was an attempt at realism, not something I'm great at, I'll add. And I'll add, you're wrong. This piece is one of my favorites, Moon Dancer, the piece done digitally on Procreate." And then we've got the reference. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drop that one down. Oh, yay, Clark. Well, you've got a sun conure, so you're biased, Clark Fine Art. Or maybe more critical because you know what they're supposed to look like, so maybe that's even better. Okay, so here's the art. He is so cute. He looks so soft, or she. I didn't see if it was a male or female. I call all animals or he's until I'm corrected for some reason, with very few exceptions. I don't know why that is. So anyway, oh my gosh, adorable. There's so much I love about this. You're shading along the edge here that you've got the getting darker Very, very nice. Nice and soft, very fluffy. Okay, good reflection on the eyes. Very nicely done. Okay, so let's look at what we could adjust to take this even further. So the first thing I notice on this guy is that his hair or his fur is quite a bit. Does this one, let me make sure that's both showing. Yeah, they're both showing good enough. This guy is very, I have to readjust some stuff. Hold on. You need to stay over there so I can make sure stuff's on screen. There we go. I think we're good. Okay. So, nope, you go in front. There we go. The first thing that I notice on this, and this is something that is very common in digital painting, is we have a tendency not to soften edges where they should be soft. So like around the nose, look how harsh that is. It looks almost like a button stuck on, like it not actually a part of the animal. Same thing around the eyes. So those would be my first main things that stand out that I think we can improve on. So how do you do that? How do you smudge that out? So we've got a couple of things. If you look at the reference photo here, let's come on over to the tablet. Let's see what color I want to go with. We'll use bright pink, that'll show up. But look at this area here. Look at that, how dark that is versus what it is on the finished artwork. So that's going to be a major thing. Also, notice little things like here. Look at how the white comes down and back up, in and out. Here, yours doesn't quite have that shape. You came in a little bit, but you actually went up instead of down, straight over and straight down. These little things, and it's minor, but they do make a difference. So that would be something just because of the angle. Like this side should be rounded. You've got that side here, correct. But this side here, he's at a different angle. You're not really looking straight on. You're, off to the side there. So that would be something that I would definitely watch out for. So there's one thing. But the other, going back to what I started with, I'm going to be all over the place today. I don't think any of my thought processes are going to be remotely linear. Good luck. I'm going to be out. That's just how my brain is working right now. The joys of fibromyalgia combined with exhaustion. It's a hot mess in my head. So anyway, what I want to do, look at how much darker we can go. And I'm going to do this. This isn't going to look good what I do. I just want to show you kind of loosely what I'm talking about. So this whole area needs to be dark, and it needs to be dark enough to go all the way up. The white does not continue all the way around here. These little things we want to pay attention to. And then the dark for the fur, we would pull that down quite a bit further. Actually, I'm matching the reference instead of yours. We can just pull your color down. This should come down, up, back in here. We want to get some of the different, whoops, not really that. And I'm going to go a little bit darker because when you're working digitally, I mean, it's very similar to how you would when you're painting. We can go, we also can pull in a little bit more around there. We'll go darker, and then when we go on top, we can take little fur marks. What brush do I want to do for that? Let's see, we'll go with you. We'll then be able to come on top and get those little wiry hairs. Now that's the next thing on this guy. You've softened it out a lot because the fur is very dense. These guys, their coat's a little bit more wiry. They're soft, but also they have a bit more texture. So his fur, you've got it soft like cat fur. A little bit different in the texture we want to get in there. So I would continue going through, and I'm not going to finish going through because this will take me forever to sit here and make all these little lines. I don't know why you're not coming up. There we go. But we want to get that texture in there, pull that down, and then I would continue around. And I would go all around the face, adding see, look at how we can now suddenly have more texture there. We can pull a little bit out further. That is more solid there. So these are the little things that I would work on. Same in here. Define some of these a bit more. just going back over. And part of that is going to be pulling up, make it a little bit darker through here. And that way you can put the lights on top and they'll stand out that much more. So that would be definitely something I would adjust there. Now what I'm doing, this is not even close to being finished. This needs a lot more work in there. I'm leaving this very like, he looks like he had a date with tweezers but didn't finish the date doing the eyebrows. So you've still got these random dark, that's what he, I don't know why that thought came to mind, but that's what he looks like to me. Now the next thing would be going onto the nose. Let's go back to that. So color-wise, let's go with that. Let's switch brushes and drop that opacity down. I'm going to make that brush a bit bigger. There we go. So this, break that up so that the nose is softer and it fades a bit more into the fur. Don't have it so like cut out harsh. And I should have done this on a separate layer so I could do undo and then add and whatever. You get the idea. But these would be some of the things that I would adjust in just making the fur, make some of these areas around him stand out more. The same thing with the eye. The eye has another area where we would want to soften that out a bit. And these are situations or things that typically, see, look at just that little bit. Look how it softened it. So I pushed it so it feels like the eye is back there. Maybe that's a little too much. So the eye is more apart. That's too dark. I would need to lighten that way up. And you can also use smudge tools. Which one is that on here? I don't know what my setting is. Probably way too high. Oh, no, it's not. But you can smudge things out a bit. Just soften it like you would with, let's say you're working with graphite. We go in, we smudge edges, soften them out. You can do that digitally too. And that would be another thing you could do around the nose. Just smudge that a bit. So it's not such a harsh line. We have a tendency when working digitally to make everything way too harsh. We can, whoops, too much. Or smudge too much because I don't know how to do my settings. There we go. Just lightly soften. I'm blurring that, just kind of smudging that side to side. But that gives you a bit more of an idea on how we can soften things up, where to go from there. I think I might be able to just drag the original back on to that. Let's see if it'll, there we go. That actually worked. That doesn't always line up the way I want it to. So here, oh, no. What happened there? I'm not pushing. What am I doing wrong here? You. Oh my gosh. See, I knew this was going to be one of those days. I probably should have just taken the day off. There we go. That's the, I forgot hit enter. But these little things, now he, again, not finished. I actually made him worse if you look just by this. But look at how his nose would be softer. So you can kind of see the direction you want to take that in. I just got you started with a few pencil strokes or brush strokes. You would need to go way, way further in that. But see how we want to start making that fur more wiry, layer more of it, a lot more than what I've done. Make that fur not look quite so soft. It's going to give you a more, since you said you are going more for realism, would give you a slightly more softer look. The other thing that we can do too, so let's take this out. Let's look at just talking about color. No, this isn't what I need. Here we go. Look how much darker you can go in a lot of these areas. Let's just do a new, this probably ought to be too big. Let's do a 2x2. Okay. So if we just do this pinpoint, look at like here, look how dark you would want the darker part of the face in there. Your darker part is way up here and more yellow. So things like that go a lot darker than what you're at on some of these locations. The pink in here can probably be a lot darker. Oh yeah, a decent amount darker. Just that it'll make your brights appeal. It's going to be a challenge today. Appear that much darker. And then this would be another area. Like look at here at his forehead. Look how much more white is there, coming down a little bit more. So pretty much the dark, it's thick enough. You just need to drop it down so the thickness comes down here, and then the white would drop there. So you've got darker, just lower that in his head there. So a few minor adjustments, and these are minor because this is really awesome. But those few adjustments would get you that much closer to that realism that you're going towards. And I mean, this is realism, but it would be even more realistic. So building up more texture. Really nicely done. Okay. Oh, that tea is good. It has honey today. Next, we have Jane Nestor. Let's see. Hi, my goal is emotive realism, and I don't know what that means. I wanted to feel smart, but honestly, someone wanted to find that for me. I know realism, and this was on is a what? My goal was, I'm not reading this correctly. My goal is emotive realism, and this was on is a mix. Okay, no, it's just grammar issues, but we're not here for grammar, so it's okay. Is a mix of acrylic and oil, and the feather it is on is around 3 centimeters by 10 centimeters. On a side note, I also struggle a lot to get good photos of my work. They seem to look substantially better in person. That is just the artist life, isn't it? It's almost like there is too much detail to include the ridges of the feather. Too much detail including the ridges of the feather. Any advice on that would be great. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's a frog. You know I'm going to love it. Let's save that. And then I believe you've got the reference was right below. Here's the reference. Okay. So let's open that over into Photoshop. Little frog, so cute. Oh, I like yours better. I like the transparency of his little bark bubble. Okay. So when you say the detail, do you mean just like you're seeing more in the ridges than you want? Because that is something I would play up. I would almost play up the shadow too. I like how you photograph this. But I would almost, so let's talk about the photographing of it, because that's always a challenge anyway. DSLR, and in this case on a feather, I would play around with using a macro lens. Now what a macro lens is it's going to give you more, let me drop that out of the way. It's going to give you more detail in the feather. And I'm not sure if you meant, because I don't know if I'm reading that right, because it's me today. So I'm not sure. Oh, then you did great, because I don't have that same excuse, Jay. So thanks, guys. Sorry for the description. I'm dyslexic on the best of days. No, you are good. You are good. I never know, like, am I just reading it wrong? Because I need new glasses so bad. I'm reading that going, I feel like I'm 20 or 22. I was going to say 102. And see, this is where my day is. I'm so looking forward to today's nap. But I almost would want to see more detail in the feather, because what makes this so amazing, one, it's a tiny little feather. You also can get away with, when you photograph your work, and we're going to go into giving you advice on the artwork itself, but you can just going into the photograph, something like this, you're going to have to get a bit creative in how you photograph it. I think taking the photo on white paper like you did, definitely the way to go. I think that a macro lens, like on a good DSLR, is good. I like that you did a good job taking it straight on and not at an angle, but you could also, like, let's say you're selling these, I would probably lay them too, so you are coming at an angle where you're showing exactly like you have here. So you've got the most important angle you've got. That's awesome. I would also like stage it so people could see what it's like with a penny next to, or like a coin, some kind of coin. That something recognizable next to it, and it at a couple of different angles just to make it look interesting. And I would play up the detail on the feather. Like, you can see a lot of the detail of the feather in the frog. Good. That's what makes this so unique, is you painted it on a feather. Holy crap, you're awesome. That is not an easy thing to do. I used to paint on palm fronds for like decorations and stuff. Not easy. Canvases and flat like paper and stuff, way easier. So you did great here. But I would almost want to see, like, play up the fact that it's a feather, get more detail. See how this is blurred and softened out? I think a macro lens would give you even more, again, more detail is what I personally like. If I'm looking to buy something like this, I'm not going to buy this painting because the painting itself, I'm going to buy it because it's that painting on that feather. And I think the feather is just as important as the artwork itself. That's really awesome. So play that up for sure. Get a few different angles of that, I think would be really cool. Now, let's say you were selling these, and I don't like to sell things in glass that I'm shipping, because we all know how all shipping companies, UPS, USPS, FedEx, they all will, it just concerns me with glass. But like a shadow box, you could display it for sales purposes in a shadow box. I mean, you could try to ship it that way and pack it well, but that would be a really cool way to present this and make it feel even more high end than it already does. So as far as like price point and what you can charge, you would charge for the frame and the trouble of packing the frame and shipping it. Make sure you insure those. But yeah, I would play up the feather aspect of this for sure. So let's look at the artwork itself. Let's make you, scooch you over here. See, this is so tiny, it's very hard for me to be very critical of very much, but I would get more of the pinks and purples around the belly here. Let's do, I'm gonna actually remember a new layer this time. It's a Christmas miracle. Okay. Of course I can't see my layer, so that's not super helpful. So getting some of these darker colors, I would probably pull in, oh, maybe even a little darker than that. Bump that up a bit. Sorry, I've got to mess with all my stuff in here. Like here, getting the belly. Oh, I'm going to even drop that down more. Getting some of the shading on the belly here, around the legs, separate those guys a little bit more. And it's not a lot that I would do, just a little bit. Yeah, that little change really separates his belly and his leg there. And then if you wanted to go more realistic, there would be more opacity in his little bark bubble. I'm sure there's a real term there. I call them bark bubbles because they come out when they're barking. But that would be more opaque, but I also really like how it looks with it being translucent. And as a frog keeper, I would still buy this. Even though I know that's not technically correct, it wouldn't be that translucent. I just like how it looks, and I would still buy it, even though that part's not correct. So that would be it. But that would pretty much be my only real, get some shading on the belly there. You could even get some more shading in through here, separate the leg a little bit. So it wouldn't take a lot to make a difference. And I know this is tiny. You can only add so much detail. So I wouldn't add a lot. I would just focus a bit more on getting some more of those darker shadows in there. And I would really play up the fact that this is a feather. So macro lens where you see even more detail. And I think that was the opposite of what you were looking for. But I think more detail with the feather would be a big selling point. I like that you've got the shadow under the feather. I would play with the lighting too. I mean, obviously you want the lighting to be as accurate as possible to what the artwork is, but if you can get the shadow to where there's a little bit more shadow under the feather, so you've got that 3D look, you can really have fun with something like this and photographing it to make it look very three-dimensional and very appealing to a buyer, that's for sure. Really nicely done. Okay, next, we've got Lorena Boots. Oh, cute little bird. Let's go ahead and save that. This is not the best photo. Oh, look, spam. 818, that's California, isn't it? Yeah, that's California. Nope. Let's see, view. And the little chicken. And then Lorena says, torch song 9x12, Arches hot press watercolor paper. From my photo to follow, my goal was realism, would love your thoughts. Also said, did not exactly match the torch from this picture as I wanted more of the bracket in my drawing. So I took another picture of just the torch. Like the lighting better too. Can't find it right now, probably on my laptop. Okay. So let's get these guys over. You can shrink it down. So my first critique is going to be on the photo itself or the artwork, like the black, the way this is just, it looks like a screenshot. This is hard to see. I would definitely, when you share your work online, go ahead and crop that. Oh, I like this though. You did a really good job. So the only thing I would do, my main advice on this is going to be, everyone sees this coming. Contrast, type that up a bit more. So even on this, watch what happens. Image adjustments. Curves will probably, I doubt I really need to go that light, but drop those darks down. Oops. Look at what a difference that makes. Just that little bit more, a few more layers so it doesn't look so foggy. It has a more rich tone. And this is easy to do, you would just go right over what you already have with a few more layers. Still light layers, but define it. Your details in there. You've already done the hard work. I love how it looks like brushed nickel. I love how the top of that came out. Really, I like the changes you made here. I think you did a great job. I think hyping up the contrast a bit more would help. And then, of course, getting more shadow right under this section. I would play with some magentas. Go ahead and pull some of that in there. Magentas and grays in this area. Yeah, it's just the contrast. I would just make your darks a little bit darker. That's really all I've got for you on this one. I think the design is great. I like that you didn't just center it like your photo. You scooched them over, so that's good. But making almost like a difference in the clarity, making something more. Why do I have it? Do you guys do this in my MeWe notifications? I'm randomly getting like notifications for groups I'm in, like a frog group. I don't need notifications for that, and I thought I turned that one off. Anyway, yeah, contrast. That would be it on this one. Your drawing is good. I would probably pull a little bit, maybe Caput Mortem would be a good color, because that way it's not like too bold, like a magenta, but a little bit more in here on the tans and browns. And grays. I mean, you can get some grays in there. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else for you. But more of a highlight on, if you're going to go darker like this, I would highlight the top of the beak a little bit more. The eye, you don't need as well defined of a line here. I don't think you can keep that a little. It changes the expression adding that line. I'm not saying it's like a bad thing, but it does change the expression. Oops. Let's go ahead and there we go. By having this definite line there, it changes where it looks like he's looking and changes his expression. So it does have a highlight. I would just put some blue on top so it's not that defined, because your highlight is the same as the highlight on the eye. And I know that is how it is on the reference photo, but I would tone down this one area right there too. Yep, that's all I've got for you on that one. Beautiful drawing. Okay, next. I don't think we have many, so how many more do we have? Oh no, we've got a few more to go. We're good. I don't know. I may be begging you guys for entries on this. We'll see. Tricolored Collie, one of my favorite. If I could deal with brushing, actually, could technically be a Sheltie. I had a tricolored Collie as a teenager. Let's see. Save image as, his name was Sebastian, because I was obsessed with The Little Mermaid. Yeah, I can't always tell on photographs because you can't tell the size. Like, it looks more like a Collie nose, but it could be Sheltie. Could go either way. The ears aren't. I don't know. Let's see if it tells me. I'm just guessing now. So this is Jess Martens, and I just finished my first dog drawing. What? You should have said. Show off. I've been avoiding it for years because of all that fur. My goal is with this piece was realism. I'm fairly happy with how it turned out, although seeing side by side with my reference picture, I probably should have gone darker. Always my advice. My shadow colored pencils, luminous polychromos, light pasts, and pablos, and pan pastels on Duralar film, 11 by 14. So nice detail for that size. Okay. You know what I love about this too? This is something that I certainly recommend. Oh, I've already saved it and totally don't remember doing that. Wow. When does the fibro fog lift after last weekend? So one of the things that I really like about this is the example of letting your subject fade into the background. One of the things that makes this photograph so amazing and so striking is the way that the subject does fade into the background. So here, he looks more of a grayish brown instead of the definite black. So let it be dark, let it fade in. And this is such a great example of how much impact letting those edges fade out instead of trying to define them. Like with yours, you're like, okay, I know there's an edge, so I'm going to make an edge. Don't make an edge because you know it's there. Make the edge because that's how it looks in the photo. It actually looks really good. Let me drop this down. It's kind of in my way. There we go. It looks really good to go ahead and I mean, you already know that, to darken that. And we can probably, let's see, it would be better in Lightroom, but I'm lazy and I'm not pulling it in there right now. Whoops, wrong one. Cancel. Layer. Nope. Yes. Nope. This. I really should have taken today off. Okay. I mean, even that little bit, look at what a difference that makes. That you don't even have to change the detail. You just have to darken up what's there. Like, that's it. And it's perfect. Your drawing, I love. It's accurate. I mean, this is a little bit dark around the nose, so maybe you want to tone that down. But for the most part, I wouldn't even change anything else. It would just be in make it darker. So you already had the answer yourself on what to change here. You did such an amazing job. And by darkening that up, it looks just like your reference photo. The only other thing I might do is on the highlights. When I darken it, I'm almost darkening this area too much. So leave some of your highlights there. But I would also pull some purples and blues into the coat to make it look a little bit shinier, not so dull. If you keep these colors, even though that is what's on your photo, if you keep those colors in there, the coat's going to look very dull, very dirty. By pulling more blues and purples into the blacks, anytime I'm doing a black animal, cat, dog, leopard, whatever, it's going to have blues and purples into it. And let me show you an extreme example. I think it's on my website. That might be the easiest way for me to find it. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Come on, where are you? I know you're in here. Well, he is almost an example too. Not that much. Not as much as what my point is here. Here we go. This guy. Look at the purples. I've got a lot of purples in here, and I've got a lot of blues in here. Anytime I'm doing the animals, and I still have the reddish browns. So you can use these same exact colors, pull that into the black fur, and where you are on that right now, you can layer on top still and still have that level of impact. Get those darks really dark, and your darks are going to look even darker when you've got the blue. Look at how it transitions with that blue over those highlights. And then the purples, I've got purples and grays up here, purples here, but I don't have a lot of just gray. There's some, but if you go with too much just gray, he doesn't look shiny, he looks dull. So instead, if we can just go ahead and darken everything up and then get some of those blues and purples. Now, you don't have to go as extreme as mine was, but it will make things look a lot shinier. So where would I hit that? On the highlights. I would pull in through here, get some purples in there, a little bit in there. Now, if you're looking at that going, that might mess it up, I think I'll just make it darker. At least make it darker, because that alone would make it looks like your photo then. So make it darker, leave a few of the highlights, because the way that I darkened it, obviously I left some in there. Now, this is my next tip for all of you guys on your work. We've all got cell phones now. You've got photo editors that are free, that come with most of well, it depends on what phone you have, but I know mine has photo editors already in there, or download Snapseed. I know it's on Android. I'm assuming it's iPhone too. But it's an app called Snapseed. You can adjust so much. So what you want to do, when you think you're finished with your painting or drawing, take a photo of it, import it into a photo editor. I'm a huge fan of Snapseed, but anything really, hype up your contrast. That one thing, look at what a difference that will make. It'll make you more brave to go make those changes on your artwork, because hyping up the contrast, it's scary. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But if we can see what it would look like if we actually made those changes in our own artwork by just looking at that photo in that editor, it's not so scary now. And it makes it much easier to see what that could look like if you made that. Now, again, some of my highlights over the head in this case are a bit too dark. So you've got to it's not like it's a perfect new reference, I guess. But actually it could be with Snapseed, because you could leave your lights highlighted. Seriously, get that app. It's amazing. No, this is not sponsored or anything like that. It's just an app I use all the time. It's one of my favorite photo editors. It's got almost like basic Lightroom level adjustments you can make, but easy. So that's a good one. But yeah, darker. That's going to pretty much always be my answer. Great detail. Great. Oh man, you did good. Okay. And that's the fun thing. Making things go darker, it's easy. You already did the detail. You're just going back over areas to make those little adjustments. Okay, what do we have next? We have Karen Tulitz. I'm butchering your name. That's how you know I like you. Butcher all the names. Let's go ahead and save this. Oh, the little hummingbird. Oh my gosh, that's cute. Okay, let's see. Do we have a reference photo? So Karen said, I would love a critique on my second portrait, another show off here. Second portrait in acrylics. I worked on a 20-year-old photo of my friend's mother. My goal was realism and capturing her likeness. I changed the foreground to my friend's wishes and got rid of the basket and used flowers and a bird native to where she came from. I had the most trouble with the face and the clothes on her shoulder. The painting got framed later is a 40 by 50 centimeter acrylic on canvas. There is a good crop version under the original picture. I saw too late that the painting was leaning a bit. Okay, good. I'm glad you pointed that out. I wouldn't even have seen that. So good. Let's see. Wait. There we go. Here's the good cropped one. Okay. Let's pull those in here. Wow. Like now that I'm seeing that bigger, wow, you did an amazing job. Oh my gosh. I like some of the changes you made. So in her face, we've got more reds in here, and I like yours. You included those colors so it still feels natural. It still looks like her, but this, I think that it's the photo itself, and you can see that in the blues. Look at how the color is tinted. I think you did such an excellent job of adjusting the colors. Your shadow, man, did you do a good job. Holy crap. This is just, seriously, the clothing, her hand, you included fingers you couldn't see. Now, they are angled a little bit weird because they're kind of like tilted weird. So there's a little bit of an anatomy issue there. But they're cut. I would almost, in this case, include something else to cut what I couldn't see, but then the detail you put looks super natural. It's just that they're angled a little bit weird. Hands, so here's the thing. Hands suck. Even if you go, let's say you had the photo and you did it exactly how the hand is in the photo, it can look like you did it wrong as an artist because hands at the wrong angle, even if you do it exact, look wrong. Like hands are just weird to get like a pretty, you know, a nice, Joseph, a nice positioning of those fingers, you know, of the hands. So you may have even found a hand that looked just like that, and it was a bit much. I would say the knuckles are a little bit overdone, a little bit, not a whole lot though, because we know as we age, our knuckles, they'll typically get bigger, so that makes sense for her. So that I don't have a lot though. I would say the hand I probably would have pulled something else over. I love the hummingbird. The flower, so here's the interesting thing about that flower. I'm wondering if that was supposed to be more style, or if it's intentionally stylized, because it doesn't feel like it was done by the same artist who did the portrait. And it may be a difference of the photo that you had, because it looks like print off fabric instead of a part of this. And that's the only part that doesn't look quite the same. The fabric looks amazing. You could have gone a little bit more with the shading. Like you can see a shadow here. I would probably have darkened that a little bit to make it more three-dimensional. Stop itching nose. To make that look a little bit more three-dimensional right in here. But not a lot. Like this is nicely done. Wow. So here I would add that shadow. I might have pulled the pinks a little bit, or the red color, this orangey tone you've got here. You probably could have pulled it a little bit higher. And I'm getting nitpicky just because this is amazing, and what do you say about something like that, you know? The fabric, you did more shading down on the clothing, whereas it's overexposed because it's an older photo. So you've adjusted the light. That's perfect on her skirt. I like how you did that. My only thing would be this, the flower looks like it's style, and you said you did it to your friend's request, what she wanted. So it is possible that she was like, here's a pillowcase, and I love that flower, and I want that on, so you wouldn't have that level of detail. It doesn't. The yellow, so just general design thing when you do combine two photos. The bird works because the bird kind of, the colors, the tones, the hues, that works with the rest of the piece. This is the only area that has that specific yellow, and the shading on the leaves doesn't look quite finished to the same extent that she does. So that's something I would probably adjust a bit more, get some more photos. Yeah, I mean, it's already framed, it's done, but going forward, if I were to do this, you said this was your second portrait? We all hate you a little bit right now. Like, that's all, you are awesome. That is so cool. So that would be my main thing, is that this guy doesn't feel like he didn't have the same level of detailing and shading as she did. So it has like a cartoon. Like I said, it feels to me like something that came out. It was print off a pillowcase or something, which it very well could have been, which would make sense if your friend requested that. So this whole area here, I would have adjusted and put that yellow doesn't work. You could have pulled the yellow from your background, like tone that down, because that yellow isn't anywhere else. Now, if you took that yellow and put it somewhere else, you could make it flow, but I probably would just tone that yellow down so it worked with the rest of this piece. The background, I love the way you painted that, the texture. You really did an amazing, amazing job on this. I don't have a lot of advice. The skin on her, so her lips, lip color. This is something people don't always look at or pay attention to. I see this a lot where somebody looks like they're wearing lipstick, and I see this on paintings of kids. Watch the lips on children's drawings. When you overdo the detail, the darkness around the eyes, so eyelashes, eyebrows, lips, it looks like a toddler in drag, and it is creepy looking. Like, I'm criticizing myself. I used to do it too. The skin on lips, especially on children, is pretty much going to be the same color as you did the rest of the skin, just slightly darker. Do not use red. No, unless you're using red in the rest of the face where you're toning a lot of that down. You give it a creepy, like that, what is it, the toddlers and tiaras? It doesn't look natural. It doesn't look cute. It looks creepy. Sorry for those of you who like that stuff. Most people are not going to, and in portraits especially, most people aren't intending that look. So that's why I bring that up. You don't want the kids to look like they're wearing makeup, and this is a good example. See how her lips, they're just a slightly darker. These are the same colors, like here, same. That's used elsewhere in her skin. So that is something you want to watch. You don't want that definite, like, line around, and this is an example of how to do it right. So just to be clear, you don't want that really definite line where it looks like, well, children are wearing lip liner and lipstick. So really well done. Also notice the highlight here in her mouth. I'm just going to start using this as an example. Let's talk about things that worked well. Look at the highlight on the skin under the mouth where the light's hitting, just like a reference photo. Don't skip those areas. My God, you are good at this. Like, I can just sit here and point out all the amazingness of this all day long. I think your tones, everything are good. This is my only, like, real criticism would be that the way you filled in the fabric on her shoulder. You did a great job. Really great work here. Well, that and her fingers are changing directions. But here's the thing, too. You may have had a photo of her sitting like that. My mom, I forget what disease it is. She has something where her toes don't go. She's probably like, why are you telling people this? But her toes don't go the right direction. So that may be accurate for her. That could potentially be okay. But that is something to watch when you do paintings. Watch the fingers, like the positioning there, because even if you do it exact to the reference photo, we can't see hers here, but let's say you had a photo, you did it exact sometimes, it's going to look very flat. It'll look a little bit interesting. So watch hands, watch the angles there, because hands are always a pain. Feet too. My gosh, feet can be hard to make look right. Even if you go exact to the reference photo, it's a weird thing to get goodness out of. So anyway, amazing, amazing work. Okay. We've got Lil 4 Studios. Lil 4. I am probably not saying that quite right. A rough digital background. I'm quite happy with the outcome, but always looking to improve nature scenes, especially perspective and water. Thank you. This is drawn without reference. Oh my gosh, that just makes me happy. Those colors. This is going to be another one where I'm going to sit and talk about the things I like. I don't think I've got much. Well, as far as a critique, which isn't helpful, but I mean, what are your goals? Are you going for something super realistic or this more loose stylized look? It looks loose and stylized, and it's perfect how it is. Your angle, your perspective. I don't have any critiques on this. I mean, I guess you could tone down so it got a little bit cooler tones, a little bit more purples as you move back just to make it feel further away. But even then, I would hang this on my wall exactly how it is without sitting there picking anything apart. Like, it has a very stylized feel to it. I think your perspective looks great. I don't have much. The colors on this work so well together. The purples, the greens, the yellows. This is an example of a really nice color palette. One of the things that you can do, if you are ever struggling with, like, I don't know what colors to do for a painting, look up. Does it look familiar, Lynn, to me, or NH Chicky? It looks to me, I'm wrong, but named there, but it looks to me like World of Warcraft. It looks like Nagrand in World of Warcraft. If any of you play WoW, some of this, like, very similar to me color-wise. But man, is that done nicely. It has a very Warcraft art type feel to me, which may be why I like it. I play Warcraft. I like that stylized look. It's just very appealing. See the way the highlights, see how that goes across here? Right up against that shadow. But also here, she didn't go darker to make it stand out against the sky. Let it fade where it needs to. But you also have this nice contrast. You've got some shadows in there, so it goes a little darker. I don't really have anything to criticize this on. I love it exactly as it is. So I've got nothing. I know that is not what you submitted for, but I've got nothing. Yeah, Old Nagrand. Yeah. Okay, we've got Tinker here this is an 8x10 with open acrylic. I've only been painting 2 years and would like to reach for realism. Reference photo attached below. Save this. Okay. What am I looking for? My brain shut down again. It looks like we'll have time if anyone wants to submit more work. I think we're going to have time to get a few more critiques in today. So if you've got something that's finished, I've got that highlighted or featured over in the art group on MeWe. Link is in the description if I did my job right. Okay. Your drawing looks good. So you're great there. We've got some nice dimension where you can see the inside of the flowers. My main thing would be contrast. So these are a darker purple, which is fine. You just still need to play up a little bit more, I think, with I would do more glazing, I think. Like, get some more highlights where they need to be. So let's look at, that would be this flower. Where's my pen? So let's see. Let's actually remember to do another layer this time. Hey, look at me doing my job. On the right layer. Yes. Okay, so looking at highlights, if we look at our reference photo, and I'm going to do this really messy and really loose. You can make yours look far better than what I'm about to do to your work. But getting these highlights, where am I doing? Look at this edge. Like, you made yours really defined. Look at the paint, the reference. That fades out. Let it fade out. If your edge should fade, let it fade. Don't feel like you have to always force a harsh edge. You will get more dimension if you let things fade where they should. So if something has a harsh edge, let it be harsh. But if you look at your reference photo and something is just like, it's not a definite, let's see, is there something here? Like here. This shoulder. See how it kind of blends into my background? Let it blend into that background. Don't feel like you have to force every edge. This edge is harsh against the dark. This one's softer. Let it be softer. Don't feel the need to make everything really, really stand out. So here, I'm gonna actually look at this. We've got a line right there where that shadow hits. So it comes through like this. Let's go back to you. Let's really pay attention to some of these light areas. Same thing, we can get more of the light on the stems, make them almost glow by getting the lights in there right. Here's good. So we don't want to make all of the dark. We want to keep a lot of these darks. But even on the inside here then, we can go even darker. This would be darker. Go ahead and let that. So it's really just bumping up your contrast, paying attention to where your lights and your darks are, going darker where they need to be. Like, I get it. It's scary. It's definitely, oh good, well, I'll go check yours out, NH Chicky. So it's definitely one, we can define some of these a bit more too. Like this line. Get some of those in there. So I would just play with your contrast on a lot of this, or the values. So everything's more mid-range, which is safe, and it is a beautiful painting, so don't get me wrong. But I think we can certainly, whoops, that is not what I just meant to do. Go back down. I meant to move you. Let's see. You've got your highlights there. Which one is this? This one is this one. This one is this one. Okay. So again, pull out those highlights a bit more. Soften that edge. Don't force everything to be harsh. Same thing up here. We can soften that a bit. And it's just minor changes, not a lot. Now, color-wise, you can absolutely change the color to whatever you wanted. But if you wanted it to be closer to this with acrylics, I would just do a glaze of a magenta over it, and you would tone that down. Like make your whites a little bit brighter and then put the magenta over it. You can certainly give it more of a glow if you wanted that, but purple works too, because sometimes you just want purple flowers. So that also works. But yeah, it's just those little things, pulling some of that out, softening those edges. Don't be afraid to get those brights nice and bright. Like this edge is harsh on there, but I would even soften that. It just gives it a nice feel. So let's get you down. Let's do this. So just so you go from being a little bit more flat to having a bit more dimension. And that's not done. I would certainly keep going with what I'm showing you, but that's what I mean when I talk about just taking that a little bit further with the shading. You've already done the hard part. Your detail is there, your main shadows, everything's blocked in. You did the hard part. I would just go back over and lighten some of these up and darken a few areas, but for the most part, lighten some of these up. And that's gonna give you a lot more. You don't hear me say that often. Usually I say to darken stuff, but that's gonna give you a bit more dimension so you get that more 3D type look. Beautiful painting. Okay, next we have, I'll come back to the second, well, I don't usually do two from the same person, but I think we don't have that many yet. So I think we can probably get a couple more in. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do the second one from Tinker 2. Let's go ahead and save that. Said 8x10 canvas with open acrylic. No reference photo was used other than looking at Tinkerbell's bun. I feel like her back is flat. You know why? Because you didn't use a reference photo. Who knows what a back looks like? Unless you have painted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos or portraits. Maybe not that many, but I'm talking hundreds. Unless you have done that, you need a reference photo. So that's why it looks flat, because you didn't have a photo. That's as simple as that. And I don't really need to take this into this. Actually, I think the way that you did the wings, the feathery look, not realistic, but very pretty. I do like the look. But no, all of this needs a reference photo. Problem solved. I love the way you did your background here is gorgeous. The hair, you need to hype up your contrast from the darks and the lights so that it looks shiny. Everything's flat. One, not enough contrast. Two, no reference photo. Problem solved. Get a photo. There are going to be plenty of photos of backs of ladies on Unsplash or Pixabay or whatever. Use your own photo if you want, but you can take that in a mirror, do a selfie in the back, but you need to see what needs to be defined more. So it's a really cool design. I'd like to see you do this again with a reference photo and then make your darks here darker. Get a photo of wings too. Now these wings are very stylized, which is cool, but they also don't look like they're attached to her at all. So if you want them to look like they're actually coming out of her back, get some photos of birds. Look how the wing connects to the body, the movement there, how it bends, how the light catches. These are things you want to watch, but you need a reference photo. Otherwise, if you don't have a reference photo and it's a subject you've not drawn a million times, and even if you have drawn it a million times, it's probably going to come out looking like a cartoon. If you want it to look more realistic, get that reference photo. And a lot of people have this idea, so this is probably a good thing to cover. A lot of people have this concept that if you're a good artist, you don't use a reference photo. That's not how art works. There's no such thing. You'll occasionally see these clickbaity things. Look, this artist flew over New York and saw the city once and went back and drew it out in perfect detail. BS. That's a BS story that did not happen, that not the way they presented it. There may be a little bit of truth to that story, but not the way they present it. This concept that we're going to do realism or photorealism without a photo or without without looking at something. You can do a live subject too. You just need something to look at. It's not true. It doesn't exist. Will you get to the point where you can do a decent job? Sure, without that photo. But you're talking hundreds of times of drawing that subject before you hit that point. It's not going to happen overnight. So don't ever feel like, yeah, Gypsy Heart, good, very good start for no reference. This is what I would call concept art, where you do something really quick, where you've got a good idea. The next step would be to do it again, but with reference photos, because it's a great idea, great concept. And for concept art, beautiful. But I think that you can even take it further with that photo. And I will do that. I will do concept art without a photo, and then I go get a photo for what I want. So let's say I was like, I want to draw like the sun conure that I'm doing. I can sketch out about where the bird is going to go, about where the bromeliads are going to go. I'm making people cringe because I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm going to be putting fireflies in that one too, because it's me. That's what I do. But I'm excited about that. But anyway, I can do a rough sketch, but when it comes time to doing the actual art, I go find photographs. Always. So the rough sketch can be without, while you're getting your ideas, and then you go look for photos that give you an idea. And the photo doesn't have to be exact. I mean, let's say you wanted this, maybe you can't find a good photo of a girl with a bun in the back of the head. That's fine. Get something close. And you can use a girl with a bun and the back and bird wings. Get that all together. And yeah, you can, you can take it even further. Okay, we've got Karina said, I worked it out. Hopefully I put the write-up with the small photos and re-added the full size. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Photo by Callan Craig. I'm allowed to draw it. It's pan pastel, pit pastel, and carbothello pastel on pastel mat. 21 by 15 centimeters. Sample size paper that I wanted to practice pastels on. I'm new to pastels since I don't really like the feel of them, but I wanted to try a new medium. First photo I laugh because I feel the same. First photo has been enhanced. The second is the real drawing. I'm wanting it more lifelike. I can't see anything. Like, it's not a way for me. Okay, here we go. You did put it below, so we've got that now. Okay, you wanted it more lifelike. So let's save these. I was confused for a moment. That has been, there we go, save image. Oh, he's so cute. I love him. So I don't actually care about the enhanced one. Let's see, you said the enhanced. First photo has been enhanced, second photo, the real drawing. I only want the real drawing. Why? Because that's the only one, like, enhanced. If enhanced was what you wanted it to look like, you should have gone back and done that to the artwork. So we're just going to look at the real, and I actually like the real one better. It has a softer look. Honestly, for the most part, I like the real one better than the one that you're calling enhanced. I think it looks like you've hyped up your color saturation. I like your real one. The softness of that, I think, is more appealing to me. Appealing. Let's see. Let's pull this in here. Oh, what a cute photo, too. Good choice. So you're working on a small piece. Yours is not going to be it. Like, I mean, you can only be so critical when you're working small. So there's that. But let's just talk about a few things I would potentially do differently. Trying to get this to where, one, I would crop it. So get rid of that blue. Actually, why don't I just crop it? Crop your art. Whenever you post online, make it look nice. I mean, if you're posting an in progress shot, yeah, the tape obviously is going to stay there. But if you're posting the finished work, it's signed. So let's actually crop that down. Now, we will notice here that this isn't a perfectly even, like it's a little, I'm going to tilt it a little bit. It's not straight on. I'm having to crop part of the photo for this to make it actually fit the art or the thing. So make sure, try to get your art as, you're close on this. This isn't a super big complaint, but if it's even a little bit off, it does skew the work. So keep that in mind when you're making prints and such. Okay. So my first thing is that he is really close to the top of that paper. If you were to frame this, so I know you were really just practicing getting started with it, so I get that it's not a big deal. But let's say you wanted to frame it. You did something, you're like, this is the most amazing. I would love to have this on my wall because he's good enough to be on your wall. Excuse me, good enough to be on your wall. Once you mat and frame him, that mat is either going to barely touch his face or it's going to cover part of it. Shrink him down a little bit. I try to keep my artwork just, normally, it depends on the artwork. Something this small, I'm not going to go a full inch, but you want it within it enough that you're not chopping anything off when you frame or mat it. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Now, an alternative in your case, when you remove the tape, if it looks okay, you can let some of the white border show if it's a straight line. It doesn't look like yours was, so that wasn't going to work in your case, but that would be something you could do if it was a super straight, even edge, worst case scenario. But definitely try not to let your art be that close to those edges. Sarah said there are savants who can see something once and draw it perfectly, but those people are 1 in a million and they're usually a trade-off. Anyway, it's a freak ability. It's a freak ability. I don't believe. I think it's bullshit. Sorry, I swore. I think it's not the way it's presented. Can they draw things and remember things to an extent that someone like me couldn't? Oh, absolutely. But I don't think it's what it's prevented. What you see on TV, they over sensationalize everything to make it seem like something it's not, because it's not very interesting if they show the reality of whatever is going on. So yeah, I call BS on all that. I don't believe it. Absolutely do not believe. Not to the extent that they make it appear. I think that those people, can they draw better or remember more than me? Absolutely. Anybody has a better memory than me, but not what they show on TV. They do these little reports on, look how amazing they are. BS. It's all to get views. It's not half the stuff you have. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Half the crap you see on TV where they're like, we saved this animal. Oh my gosh, we went and we found this animal on the beach and we saved it. You know what half of those people are doing? They're going and finding an animal out of a tide pool, stuffing it in the sand and burying it so they can record themselves pulling it out and setting it free in the ocean. You put that animal in a bad situation so that you could get footage. This is what you see on TV, on YouTube, on all of this. We have to be a little bit more discerning on some of the stuff that we see. Yeah, no, it's rarely quite what they present it as. Can they draw better than I could just by looking at it once? Oh, that's not hard to do. Yes, that could be. Anybody can remember more than I can, but it's just not what they are presenting it as. It's not quite. They're leaving out information. They're adding bits to it's like half truths. So, yeah. Anyway, so on to this guy. Back to this guy. That had nothing to do with him. So one thing I do want to point out, I don't know if you can tell on this one, we'll go with color. One of the things that makes this guy look like he stands out so much, and this doesn't matter what size you're working on, purples. You've got these purpley blues in here, and then you've got more like blues closer to green, or sliding over the green side of the board over for these feathers. And when you get that contrast, this is something that we do a lot with peacocks. You get purpley blues and you get greenish blues right up against each other. You combine that with high contrast. So like what you've got in here, and you've included that high contrast, those highlights there, it almost gives them a little bit of a shimmer. So you get that iridescent look on peacocks with a combination of green blues, purpley blues, and then high contrast. Here, by pulling in more purpley blues and then more green blues here, that's going to make a big difference in making that stand out a lot from the rest of the body. So that would be my main thing. I mean, this is tiny and you're just getting started with it, so I'm not going to even talk too much. It does have a bit of a grainy, gritty look. it's cute. It's small. It's a small piece. So I'm not even critical of that. And especially being that you're just starting with it, I wouldn't worry about that. But that is something that you'll probably play with. If you're working with pastels, try the soft tools. Those things are amazing for getting really soft blending, if that is your goal, if you're trying to get that look. But I don't know. On this one, I don't often say that, but this is one where I would intentionally, you've got a grainy, gritty feel to it that I like, that I would keep. The main thing I would adjust would be the size of the bird, so a little bit more background is showing through. So when you crop it, it will fit better. And then or not when you crop it, when you frame it and mat it, it would fit better. And then get your contrast here. So you've got a lighter, like more purpley blue. So that's going to stand out a lot more from your greenish blues. But overall, considering the size of this, it's great. You can also, another thing you can do is tone down, make him stand out more by toning down this branch. If that wasn't quite as dark, let it be lighter so it's closer to the background color. I think that that's going to give you a little bit more dimension. So that should look like it's further away. So if you could go, the colors, the greens and those light tones you used in the background, use a little bit more of on that branch to push him back. You want to see it. I think it looks awesome, but not as much, like just a little bit less, like softer. And that's going to make him, you'll get more 3 dimension in that from that one little thing. So there's my advice on that. Let's see. Let me find my page there. Okay, this will take me a minute. I need to refresh it for the new entries, and it'll take me a minute to scroll down to find them all. Not that one. Not that one. Okay. Oh, that actually didn't take as long as I thought it would. Nice. Okay, we have Tara Gibbon. Tara? I can never remember which it is. I grew up, my best friend's name was Tara, so you're apparently Tara. This is my first real attempt at colored, another show off I see. First real attempt at colored pencil. I do love it, but do you see things I could improve on to make it better? Reference pictures in the comments. Okay, let's save this guy. Oh my gosh, that vase. Okay. And then let's pull these up. Look at those eyes. Is that not the cutest dog? Oh my gosh. Okay, so a few things. We've got some perspective stuff going on. His eyes are about right, and I love the reflection. I like that you hyped that up. I love your eyes so much better. But the nose is kind of going the wrong direction. Just a little bit. Like there's just a little bit of perspective issue going on, and it's minor, but it's definitely there. So I would certainly adjust that. I mean, if we look at the line here, it's not there. There's just a little bit of skewing there. He almost feels more stylized than as realistic. So that would be one. The next would be to pull more blues and purples into his coat. And actually, in this reference, what I would even pull like burnt sienna. So that reddish brown, or reddish, yeah, it's like a reddish brown tone. Get some of that, Caput something like that, I would pull into the skin tone there. Like the highlights here. Watch the direction of the fur. So we've got, let's just go to pink. My default bright pink, because it's not obnoxious at all. So look at, oops, let's actually make you a little bit smaller. Not that small. Not that small. And bump up past it. There we go. So if we look at the way the fur moves, we've got this kind of flow, and then it switches directions here. We've got that, switches directions. So look at the flow of the fur here, whereas here we're kind of all going the same, like this whole section, it almost is like this was my comfort. And I know because I do this. This is how I know what happened. You're like, this is my comfortable hand mark to make this motion go like here. Watch your reference photo with the direction there. This should go down, or you've got your ear. That's actually ear fur. So the ear would layer here. I wouldn't put the fur sticking out there. I would break that up and let this be a little bit longer. So there's just a couple of things here, like this ear, I would pull out. This whole section is ear. So yours is a bit shorter based on, whoops, you. I think you based it off the shadow. So this is ear and this is ear. And I think that you cut yours off at the shadow. So the ear is a little bit shorter than it should be. So there's just some issue, like the drawing, the perspective there is a little bit different. Here's another thing. This, he's got his cheek, but this is his face too. So we've got his cheek, but his face kind of ended. It should come down here, be a bit more defined. The line's there, but I think that you want to get that, make sure that that feels a little bit, like pull that forward a little bit more so that there's, you're not going to hear me say this often, but a little too much contrast is there. So if we can just, this is a little too bright, tone that down. And I would tone that down with purples and blues and get those other colors in there to make him look nice and shiny. Yeah, and a lot of this is just kind of some issues with the drawing. His ear, again, over on this side, same thing. That ear comes down to here, which almost, but the nose is in the wrong place, so that's part of the problem. So yours is kind of, it's like when one thing gets off, everything else gets off when you're checking your work against itself. So that's really what's happening there. The eyes, great job. Do you notice though, it started, the highlight here, you can pull that around a little bit, see how this continues. So that, like, it's minor little things. I would definitely pull in the purples and blues, put mortems. Watch, like here, you've got a really harsh line right there. It's soft. This transition, it does get a little darker, but that needs to be soft. Oh my gosh, you do not often hear me say there's too much contrast anywhere. So that would be something I would adjust a bit more. And yeah, just really the perspective, little things. Let's see, the nose. So your nose is very different. It doesn't blend in with the face. And the nose here, this should pretty much be the same color. Here, not a lot of difference. That is almost exactly the same. So whereas on yours, if we come over here, we've got a much bigger difference in our color between the light and the dark there. So the nose is too light. I would darken a lot of that up. And then the angle is also, we're back to having some, let's see, this would be a little bit more rounded, a little bit more in this way, comes down and back up. It's just, there's a little bit on, and it's so minor. It's just little things that if you adjust, will make him look even more realistic. Perspective's the main thing there though. His eyes are here, his nose is there. Like it's a little bit off there, but beautiful work. Good job. So that's me being nitpicky. Okay, now we have and thank you everyone for submitting, like so much. Linda. Let's see that. Oh, this is pretty. And our photo. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Linda says, I did this in acrylics on a Frederick's watercolor board. I was going for realism. Okay. Let's get Photoshop up and those photos. You. Wow, that is actually really close. So my first thing would just be when you're looking for a reference photo, your water looks better. When you're looking for a reference photo, when doing landscapes, I will usually try to avoid midday photos. Try to go a little bit more, just to make the photo more interesting, early morning, late afternoon, you're going to get better lighting. Because what happens if you take the photo in the middle of the day, which is when most of us, if we're going hiking, is probably in the middle of the day. So I get it. But it's going to be a bit more, I don't want to say flat, but flat. I mean, I don't know what other word I'm looking for there. You can get a much more interesting look if you can go a little bit earlier morning, later afternoon when you're going for landscape portraits or paintings, excuse me. I think that that will make a big difference. So midday, the other thing I would say is on the design, like your painting techniques, I really like. I like the way you did your grass. That looks great. You may want to pull a little bit more detail in the foreground, like make the grass blades as you get closer to the viewer a decent amount bigger than what you've got in the distance. And that's going to help you with perspective. The other thing is your color. And see, this goes back to, it's hard because you're a midday landscape, but your color up here, you want more yellows. As you move here, get more of a bluish tint. And your reference photo is the same. So I get what you're looking at. What I would recommend doing too, look at some professional portrait artists, the way that they do their lighting and where things like back here, we're going to push that back by putting blues. I would do the same thing in the mountains, pull some of those colors of the blues and the sky into the mountains to push them back. My biggest complaint on this one, because your skill, like the way that you painted this is very well done. You can certainly darken up the trees some, get a little bit more contrast there. So I like that yours have the light in them, but I would leave that light color for your brightest highlights. I would get some of the darks in there more, but also the bigger thing would be the layout. So we can go with a rule of thirds would be an easy way to look at this. So let's go. I'm really impressed with your painting techniques too. I know I said that, but these are nice. I'm going to do a new one. Let's say this was an 11 by 14. I don't know what it was, but that will probably work. I'm going to drag you. Whoops. Actually, I'm going to do a layer fill really quick. And then I'm going somewhere with this. So of course we've got the angle is going to be a bit skewed just because it's not straight on, but with a landscape it's not skewing that much, so I'm not too worried about it here. What if we extend the sky more? What kind of a difference are we looking at if more sky? Let's say that same landscape. So I would almost turn it so it's not landscape at that point, but more sky, more clouds. And I'm not saying this is the perfect example. I just want to look at what a difference it might make. This is the worst Photoshop job anyone ever did ever. So what if we had more clouds? What if we had more space up top? I think because the photo that you used worked better in this long thin because you had a better balance of sky, mountain, foreground. Yours, what's happening is when you look at the painting, where's your original? I did. Let's see. Let's pull you back up. There we go. When we look at yours, it's mostly mountain that you're seeing, and it creates a wall, like a block that I'm not loving as much. I like the layout of this a little bit better, where we've got this bigger foreground. We can see this nice path. We can see the mountains are there, but they're not, it doesn't feel as much like a wall. Your technique, absolutely amazing. It's more of a layout thing, I think, that I would adjust on that. And even, let's say this is an 11 by 14. 11 by 14, you're still going to have to make adjustments because I can't fit on this to get the grass in there. Let's pull you over. We'll use you as an example. Yes, please. There we go. Dropping you behind there. Go back to where we were. Oh, not that much. Don't look crazy there, Lisa. There we go. So again, this is super loose little layout here. So yeah, my main advice for you really isn't so much on your painting or a bit on the color, but I would warm up, just go more yellows and such up front. Like the color you have right now, that's what I would use in the foreground. And as I move back here a little, you've got some of the blues in there. I would probably just put a few more. But if we can adjust our layout a bit, and I'm not saying, would you stop doing that? Stop it. I'm not saying that this is the perfect layout. I'm just saying, look what a difference it makes. The mountains feel too much like a wall in your original, whereas if we just adjust the positioning there, that'll make a big difference. More sky, and I would get some clouds in there too, but more sky, more foreground. Your middle section, and it is beautifully painted, beautifully done. I think it's just the perspective. So in your case, I would spend a little bit of time doing quick sketches of, would it look better if I sketch this direction when you've got a reference photo like this? What if I flip it? What if I push the mountains back a little further? Play with those type of things. But really, gosh, you've even got the rocks back here. You are going to do great with landscapes. Those few little changes I think will help. Okay. What do we have next? We've got Jaina. I don't know if I'm too late. No, because we are ahead today. But I'm trying anyways. This was done with polychromos on toned Strathmore sketching paper. I love toned paper. One of my favorites, 11 by 15. My goal is surrealism with focusing on a specific emotion feeling. Didn't use reference photos for this. So you're going to be one of those rare cases where not using the reference photo was okay, and I suspect you've done a lot of drawings like this because you have a really good understanding. Like, it's a very stylized look. I don't even have anything to pull into this because it's stylized. So there's nothing, I mean, unless you're having a specific problem, I like this how it is. It just feels so complete. You maybe make the darks, the shadows in the back corner a little darker. I don't even need to pull this into Photoshop. Though your stylized look with the eyebrows, the way that you've done the eyelashes, the way everything about this, I've got nothing. I mean, maybe a little darker in the backgrounds of the hair, a little bit more solid on some of that. But this has a very stylized feel and it feels very complete. The way you've done the white outline, it works on it. Like, everything about this works. So you're going to be one of those people who you've done it enough that in that style that you can get away with not using a reference photo and still make it come out. Like, you have an understanding of how hair flows. You're not just making one long single strand wave down. You know how hair folds because you've done it enough times. You know the shape of the eyes, the shape of, like, how to make eyebrows look that way. This is what you will get to that point, but you have to have done so many drawings, so many, in this case, portraits, to have a general understanding of anatomy to where, is it going to be exact to any specific person? Like, let's say you're like, I want to draw, I don't know, who's Aquaman? I don't know. What is that guy's at? Jason something or another. You can draw him and have him look stylized like this, but if you want it super realistic, you're going to need that reference photo. But this is stylized, so I feel like it has different rules. Is that the right word? So no, I think you've accomplished what you were going for. It is stunning. This would be something I just feel it's complete exactly how it is. And even where I'm like, you could make it darker. You don't need to either. It looks, I don't have advice for you. Now we have Lynn, no reference. Another no reference show off. Did you use a reference or you just don't have the reference? So that would make a difference. So it's hard for me to critique when I don't have an actual reference in something like this that's more realistic to go by. I'm waiting to hear, Lynn, if you looked at something or if you're going from memory on that. So there's certain subjects, like with me, I can do whales and dolphins and have them pretty accurate and I go more stylized there anyway, so it doesn't matter, which makes sense, without having a reference just because I've done them so many times. I can have a terrible reference of a flamingo, but make it look better because I've done them so many times. So this did not use a reference. I paint horses all the time. There you go. That makes sense. So yeah, the only real critique I have on this is that it's very flat white, flat black. So it's really cool. The feather on the head, that one you want to tone down. It's drawing at me right off the canvas. For some reason, my eyes just want to go right, like it's like following it a bit much. But the lights, like your whites are very, very white. Your black is very black. I'd like to see more highlights on, let's see. Now, you didn't have a reference photo, so I'm assuming you're not going for super realistic, but you are close there. There was one that I didn't pull up earlier that was a darker horse, but you can still get those really definite highlights, even though the horse is really, really dark. So you can get more dimension there. You would have to have a reference photo to really know where those highlights are going to go. But I think you can take your work even farther with that. And if you can do that without the reference photo, imagine with the reference photo. But I think a little bit more with that contrast. You can still have the really darks, but if we can get some of those highlights back in there so has more dimension. And of course, you know me and my purples and blues when it comes to black. Let's get that, it's in my way. So that would be something I would adjust. The whites, pull more blues into that. Same thing, get your shadows, get some more stuff in there. But overall, especially not having a reference photo, beautiful work. But yeah, I would take it even further. And you've got the start of some of those highlights, but I would take that further with getting those definite, like, it's more impactful if you can get that high contrast in those darker subjects. That would be my advice for this one. I'm sitting all hunched. That's a bad idea. My back is going to hate me later. Okay, Lisa, sit up. So we've got one from Rob. I drew this on pastel mat with pastel pencils and colored pencil. My was realism. The size is about 9 by 13. So my first thing, 9 by 13, even with colored pencils, it is hard to get a full body. Like, that is awesome that you got that much detail. If I'm going to do a full body, I wouldn't even go less than like 16 by 20 minimum for this size in colored pencil for me. So good job on getting that level of detail on something that small. So we've got our reference photo. So when you're working smaller, one of the things that you're going to do a lot is just kind of focus on where your general lights and darks. That's going to be more important than tiny, tiny detail in many cases. You can make something still have a very, so we don't need that one anymore. Strong look. Let's view, and where's the other one? Did I not save it? It's probably right in front of me. Maybe I didn't save it. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Well done for the size. But the main thing here would be then you're not really going to get much more in the way of detail. His eyes are off. This one's drooping. I would adjust that. There's definitely a bit of a droop in here, just the shape of the eye. So that's going to be, this is hard, trying to get the detail and get the shape like that right on something that small. It isn't easy. So usually if I'm going to do 11 by 14, it is only the face. You know, and that's close to what you're working with. So this is not easy what you've done. This is great work. I would definitely, besides making sure that the eyes, even if it's smaller, I would make sure the eye shape needs to be exact. So that would be my next thing that I would focus on. The other is going to be just your general lights and darks. Like here, he can be even darker under his chin. You've got the start of it, hype that up. The shadow in the ears, darken that. So you're not going to be focusing as, oh yeah, my back is angry. You're not going to be focusing as much on your detail as you are your lights and your darks. So that is really important here. The darks in the bowls can be a lot. Bowls, there's not two. Bowl can be darker. The darks, look at the shadow here. I love the fabric. The shading in there, get that in there. That will make your work look amazing. That bowl is gorgeous. But look at the lights in the bowl. So you've got, it feels right now like you've got all of your midtones and some of your highlights. Now you need a few more highlights, but mainly your shadows. Your darks are really what you want to focus on at that point. Look how much darker this area here is. All of the creases, you've got the start of it, so the hard part's done. Now you're going to take the those deeper shadows, get those darker, really get that dimension in there. Play up your lights and your darks. I think you'll be good. That would be my main thing. Fix the eye if you're still working on this one. That eye is a little bit, this one looks pretty close. This one is a little bit, they're not matching up to me quite right. So that, I like the way you've got the highlight on the cheek. I like the shadow under the cheek. That's great. You could even go a little bit darker right at the line right here. The underside of the nose, go a little bit darker. The neck and under the beard, go darker there. And then way darker on these creases of the fabric. Right now, that shirt feels super flat, but the photo is not flat. That's an awesome photo where you see those definite lights and darks. So I would definitely play that up and then get more dimension in the bowl. Get those highlights in there and then get those dark lines. So then I think you're off to a great start. Just take it a bit farther. Okay. We've got Alexandra, one of my first finished colored pencil pieces. Oh, nice. I love the color combination. 9x12 using watercolor pencils dry. The reference for this was posted in the July 2010 colored pencil challenge. Wow, that was a while ago. Colored pencil challenge on wet canvas forum. Yeah, definitely a while ago. So I don't have the reference for anymore. The goal at the time was to get recognizable as a daylily. What colors, hues would you suggest to add for the shadows and yellows? You guys can probably already answer. I bet half of you, at least half of you in the chat already know where I'm going with this. Any guesses? What colors would you shade yellows and oranges with? Let's see. So this is a nice start. She needs to be finished. And that's really, if you notice a pattern, that's kind of the case for almost all of these. They're all off to a great start, just need to be finished. There are a few where I'm like, I would just adjust the layout. It looks finished. It's just, a few minor things. But like in this case, it just needs to be finished. So, I mean, okay, this was an older one, so you're not going to go back and change it. And I wouldn't recommend you do so. I would recommend try doing it again. But, and I can't see this. Was it actually green on the inside? That's unusual for the inside of a flower. It probably wasn't that green. But when we shade, yep, Nick's got it. When we shade these guys, we're going to go with more magentas. Let's see. That is not going to, I don't have a reference photo, so I'm not really going to do a whole lot to this, but I'm just going to show you the general layering there. What do I want? No, pen. That is why. Oh, hey, look, it works better when you pick the right button. Who knew? Whoa, nope. That is not the right thing. Way down. So we can take these magentas and start using that to get the detail and shading in here. Again, I don't have your reference photo, so I have no idea where the highlights and shadows would have been. I can almost guarantee you that was not that green. Green, but not that. The reason that this is flat is there's no shading. It's more solid colors everywhere. So like, what if we made this look like it bent backwards by getting this shadow in there? Same thing here. Let's bend that back by getting a shadow. Now, I'm not saying I'm doing the best job. Actually, I'm saying I'm doing the worst job. But we can start getting dimension. When you've got yellows, you've got oranges, your shadow color is almost always going to be magentas or purples. And those are colors you can use. Magentas and purples can shade most colors. But right now, everything is just flat. So we can start building. I really wish I had a reference photo on this, or any photo of lilies. But anyway, you want to start building those shadows. And this has a long ways to go before it is even remotely. Start getting some highlights. Go a little bit lighter too. Pull those brights out a bit more. But this would be a case too where I would say spend more time on it. So let's say this took you 2 hours. I don't know. It depends on how big it is, how long that would have taken you. What happens if you instead spend 2 days? Spend a lot more time. Like, see how we've got these lines, these pencil lines? This is rushed. This is how I know something's very just quick sketch, which is fine if you're going for something sketchy. But if you're going sketchy, I typically am going to do more cross hatching and different directions. So when you fill things in, it's not just about getting the one perfect color. It's going to be lots of colors, lots of values. The values are going to matter more. So that would be my main bit of advice. Like, this is just, we don't have any, smudge that out. But yeah, without the photo, I can only kind of guess so much on where we need shadows, where we need highlights, all of that stuff. Oops, it's too much. Like likely this would be darker. Set that flower petal apart. I'm just doing a scribbly mess. But if we can keep going to getting that depth, there should have been inside little strands coming out for the inside of the lily, if I'm remembering what these guys look like. So yeah, just more shading, more time. Lots and lots of time on that and start creating the depth. But when it comes to shading oranges and yellows, magentas and purples are my go-to. And that is a hot mess. I didn't improve anything, but I'm just giving you an idea of what I'm talking about to start creating depth. Let's see, we've got Stephen, is it Stephen Wood. Derwent Drawing, I got a message from you on Patreon, didn't I, earlier? I haven't opened, I have to go through, I'm so behind on everything right now. Derwent Drawing and Polychromos didn't use any solvent except for the very dark part of the background. Ah, spider. So you know I like them. Oh, he's a pretty one too. Okay. So my main advice for you on this one, I can already tell, more time. He's not wrong. He's just not finished. You might think he's finished. He's not finished. Where'd the reference? There we go. I mean, you've got everything in there. So now take the time. Look how much darker. Get your shadows in there. Get those darks really dark. He needs fluffier legs. The shadows, I mean, everything right now is at this is what I would call my base layer, where you've got everything mapped out, everything's blocked in. Now let's say you spent 2 hours on this. Maybe you spent 2 days on it. Whatever it was, I want you to spend about 10 times more on it. And really focus on the little details, the little shadows. Notice the little things, like, I'm gonna freak people out by pointing out spider stuff. But let's say, pen. Let's say I chose the right thing. That's unlikely. Look at like the shadow right there. We've got a definite shadow. You've got the little hairy guys, but there's dark. Look at all the dark. Look how hairy this is. We've got this nice fluff. I am just grossing people out right now because it's spider. We've got more fluff. We've got brown, a lot more brown in this guy than what you've got. Like tan tones. Look at the shadow. Dark, black under there. Look at these shadows. Look at these little details. You've done the hard part. You got it drawn out. You got your base color. Look in here. This line. Look at the little lines in here. We've got so much little detail. So you're at a point. You've drawn it great. You've shaded it. You've filled it in. Or I wouldn't even say shaded. You filled it in. Now let's spend quite a few more days and really take it to that next level. You're almost there. I mean, you can do this. I can see you can do this. You drew this. Now finish. Like, it just needs to be finished. So great base layer, but we need to go further on that. So I think you're off to a really good start, especially on this piece. Like, I could see where this will be good. And please share it with us when you finish it. Except for some people are cringing about the spider, I'm sure. But when you finish it, share in our art group, because I would like to see now, and I would like to see what happens when you spend another 8 or 10 hours on it. Like, I'm not sure how long you spent on this one. I don't know what size it is. And it's not, when I talk about like, oh, if you spent 2 hours, I'm not saying that a good artist would be at this point after 2 hours. It's going to vary from person to person. That there's no, like, a good artist could get this done in this amount of time. It is completely different across the board. I happen to work fast. That doesn't mean I'm better or less than anybody else. So don't take when I'm throwing out like, oh, spend another 8 hours. 8 hours might look like 80 for you. I don't know what that looks like for each individual, and it is not an indication of if your art is good or not. So don't be discouraged by those time frames that I'm throwing out there. So are we done? Is that it, or were there more? Let's see. Let's go create artist group. Did we have more? I think we're good. I don't know if you guys, Steven said the photo was overexposed. Even so, it's not finished. There's no detail. You can do detail. You got that. That's a good photo. You got an awesome photo. You need to take more time on that. I think you're going to do great. More time, though. He's just not finished. So overexposed, I get that. Certainly. Trust me, I get that. But the overexposing isn't really the problem. You're missing all the details not there yet. You got your base color. Now go back and do the detail and more shading. So you will do, I think he's going to be awesome. Keep working on him, though. He's drawn great. His perspective, I'm happy with how you've got him drawn. He just needs more. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, wow. Look at that. There's nice contrast on a horse. This one isn't you know, she said she'd take critiques. My only thing on this wasn't submitted for this video, but she did say any critiques are welcome. This is beautiful. It's a bit more yellow. I would probably not go with so many yellows. I would go more with tans, which will appear yellow. So let's say you're doing a yellow lab. And honestly, if you're going for more stylized, you just wanted yellow, it goes with someone's decor. That's what they asked for. It is a beautiful, stunning painting. But I would, yeah, definitely sharpen those pencils, David. Let's say you're doing a yellow lab or somebody with blonde hair. Yellow isn't a color you'll even use at all. You're going to be using tans and that like light cream tans and then purples for the shading. But yellow is not. Yellow has a very stylized, almost an unnatural look when it comes to most animals with fur, except for that one monkey. I forget who was working on that monkey, but some of you know what I'm talking about. But that would be my only thing there. But yeah, I guess you didn't ask to be in the video. This is Viru. Gosh, that's gorgeous though. That's pastels. This is, you know what's interesting too? This is a great example of how it doesn't matter what color you use. So even though I'm like, it's a bit yellow, but still looks realistic. Even though it's what I would consider always a wrong choice with fur, which we learned from that monkey is not always. But I would, birdcage cleaner. Like, why is Amazon here? Birdcage cleaner. Anyway, sushi's a messy, messy chicken. But this is a good example of you can do something where the color, I know that horse didn't look that color. Still looks realistic because the values are correct. Lights are light enough, darks are dark enough, and it's drawn correctly. So it doesn't, people get so hung up on color being correct. That horse isn't that color. But it looks realistic. It looks three-dimensional because the values are correct. So absolutely beautiful, beautiful work. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if you guys have any questions about, I don't know, whatever. We've got about 15 minutes, or we just wrap up early. I don't know. Let's see. So those we're done with. I don't have the Photoshop. Do I have anything else? Any other stories I wanted to tell you guys? Hold on. Text from my neighbor. This is when I wish. Oh. My neighbor's working on a wood plaque. It actually looks really good. Yeah, so we're just going to sit here and look at each other awkwardly, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've got anything for you guys. We can go back to showing you the sun conure I'm really excited about. So that one, where is he? Yeah, NH Chicky, some amazing artists here. Absolutely. What an amazing group of photos. So I don't know. Let's see. Moody Ron, I just came in time for a Lisa story. I don't know what I have for you guys today. Lisa stories. There was stuff that I forgot. I wanted to mention about Aquashella and like selling at booths, and I can't even remember what it was now. I missed it in the video, and I was like, oh, I should have brought that up. And now I'm like, I'll tell them tomorrow. I don't remember what it was at all. Color pencil. This one, Sun Conure. Where is he? We already talked about him though, so it doesn't really do you any good. Where's my drawing of him? Was it layout? Copy? The finished one? So I designed him in Photoshop and all of these flowers so I could move, or not flowers, they're bromeliads. Oops, that's not the right one. Nope. Where is smaller? Maybe that was that one. They all move around. So I could figure out like, where would this look best? You can see I erased the part over him already, but I drew these out in separate things in Photoshop and then moved them around to position them exactly how, like, what do I want in front of the bird? What do I want behind the bird? And it made it so much easier that, like, I could sketch it in the sketch pad, which if you're not, at least do that before you do your designs, you know, to figure out where stuff goes. But this is so nice because I was able to position it like, what if it's behind the bird? What if it's in front of the bird? What if it's, you can do all your what ifs and come up with the perfect design and the angles and all. It's so, I love designing stuff in Photoshop. But that's the one tonight. I'm really excited to start that. So step one of this lesson will be, if I can find my first, I think I've got masking fluid. So we'll talk about that. We'll do the masking fluid portion of the lesson, and the airbrushing part will definitely be done. At least those two parts will be this week. And the cool thing with the masking fluid, even if you're doing like watercolor as your background, the masking fluid lesson would still apply to you. So that is the plan there. Let's see. I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry. I'm so bad. Thank you for your comment on my yellow horse. This is exactly what I needed to know. Don't use yellow, but Tams, yes. Thank you so much. And that horse, friggin' gorgeous. Like, I love that though, because it's such a good example of the colors aren't that big of a deal. Your painting's beautiful and it looks complete. And let's say somebody's home decor, they're blues and yellows. They're going to prefer a yellow, like the yellow works. It has this very artsy feel to it. So while it's not accurate as far as being the correct color for the horse, doesn't mean he doesn't look realistic. He looks like he's under yellow lights, like fake yellow lights. He still looks three-dimensional. He still looks realistic because your values are correct. You're awesome. That work is beautiful. George said, how would you blend a subject to be softer into the background? Blender pencil or OMS? I've used a clear blender pencil to do that. I will usually take the color I'm using. So it depends on what the colors are. So let's say, I'm trying to think. It depends on what let's say I'm trying to make my shoulder here blend more into that background. I'm going to take the same color in the background. I'm going to layer them over each other of what the shoulder color is, what the background color is. They will just kind of layer on top. It's not so much when you're working with colored pencil, OMS isn't going to do it for you because it's not really moving it that much. It pushes the pigment into the paper, but you're not spreading it really. I would end up usually burnishing whatever color I needed to, I would overlap the two colors. Where they meet, I would just, let's say one color is purple and one is aqua, I would layer them into each other. So I'm doing that with the pencil color itself, not with a clear blender, not with OMS. I mean, I may use those tools to soften the, you know, to just, it's hard. Okay, so we use the term, and I use the term blending with OMS a lot, and that's not really the right term. We're not blending as in smudging. We're blending, but it's more moving the pigment. We're dissolving it into place into the paper. If I blend watercolor pencils or Inktense, that blends, it spreads. Colored pencil doesn't spread that much, a little bit, but not that much. We're really just kind of making it dissolve into place. So we're filling in all the white crevices of the paper. We're filling in all those nooks and crannies, the tooth of the paper when we do that. So we can build up and get that really rich color. So it's not really blending two colors together. It's a little bit different when we talk about blending with OMS. So if I'm trying to blend something into the background, let's say there's an owl and the edge needs to fade into the tree in the background. And the tree's kind of a greenish brown. I'm going to take those greenish browns and I'm going to take the browns of the owl and I'm going to smudge it, like kind of overlap them right there. So I get this soft transition between those two colors. I don't know if that makes sense explaining. I need to, like, it's easier to show. I have pencils right here. Alicia said, I like the new format that you're doing with the bird. It's going to be super helpful. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. So what I did, I can show you guys. The new Patreon layout, oh, weird. Why are you? Oh, no, you are open on purpose. The new Patreon layout I did, I have steps. So this last week, here was the finished art. I'll just pull it up over here. And I showed you guys or shared steps of what it would look like. I showed how I lined it up with a rule of thirds. That was in the video. But I also had downloadable, like this is what it should look like at step 1. You don't want your line drawing any darker than what mine is. Step 2, we're just starting with that magenta tone and that's what it should look like. This is what it should look like at step 3. And so in the video, I stop it like, okay, we're at this step. This is where yours should look like. So if you're following along like step by step, the goal is that you know what yours should look like at that step. So it's a new format, takes me a bit more work. So I'm hoping you guys really like it, but it is, I'm trying to make them easier for you to follow along. And I'll do the same thing with this guy. I'm thinking I'm going to do that with all my lessons moving forward because it seems like you guys like it. So that is awesome. I'm glad you like it, Leisha. Rob said, if you are asked to do a portrait drawing in black and white. How do you decide whether to use a graphite or charcoal, please? I let the customer know. I will show them, this is what my charcoal work looks like, this is what my graphite work looks like, and let them decide what they want. So I don't choose myself. It depends on what they want. Hobby Artist said, do you think next week will be a design of another collage, or are you going to do website channel critiques next week? What do you guys want? Well, I mean, I do this for you guys. So would you like me to start a new colored pencil piece, or do you want me to start critiquing websites and channels next week? Oh, we have a new submission. Okay, let's go ahead and do that really quick. Actually, we'll answer. Nancy said, how do you keep track of all your works? What type of inventory? No, I don't at all. Elaine said, Lisa, you're amazing. Thanks for the critiques. Oh, thank you. George said, thanks, I have not been doing the overlapping of colors to soften the edges as much. I'll try that. I try that more often. Yeah, it's your edges, when you want soft edges, it's just where the colors, there's not a harsh line between color transition. So let's go and see. We've got one more submission here. Ooh, pretty. Kathleen, Polychromos, her own picture. Actually, it's hubby's photo. Oh, that's gorgeous. I love the angle of the wings there. Okay, and here is our photo. We're going to save that. Let's pull this in. We'll do this as our last critique for the night. The day. I don't know. It's nap time. Go away, scream chicken there. Conures. I call them scream chickens. That is their superpower. Although, I don't know, sushi's starting to rival a conure lately. What am I looking for? Critiques. Okay. Oh, gorgeous photo, gorgeous artwork. Wow. You two are a good match for each other. So my main thing would just be darken your darks. You've got the detail. Gosh, this is gorgeous. But I would make my darks darker. So like here in the wing, this whole wing can be a lot darker. Right now, they're very similar. It's a little bit darker. Let's take that to another level. Let's make it even darker. Some of the darks that are on the inside of the flower in here, if you make them a little bit darker, some of the lights are going to stand out. Excuse me. They're going to stand out that much more. The blending, it depends on if you want this to be super smooth or if you want, it has a little bit more of the grainy gritty look, the sketchy look, but it works. So this is the thing. You'll often hear me talk about something being sketchy or grainy gritty looking. It's something usually in my work. I make my colored pencils. You shouldn't look at mine because it's my goal. My colored pencils, my oils, my acrylics, if you look at it, it should all look like, no one should be able to tell if I'm showing them a photo in person. Obviously, you can kind of tell a difference, but you shouldn't be able, in my case, because that is my goal. But some people like that more sketchy look. I've actually had people request a portrait in colored pencil with that. They wanted it to look like art and not when they thought that my oils and acrylics looked too realistic. So they wanted the more sketchy look. At the time, I wasn't as advanced, I guess, with colored pencil when I was asked for this. But there are sometimes people want, because it has it looks obvious that that is a painting or a drawing versus a photograph. So that's why I always ask goals, because it's not an issue of grainy gritty is bad and smooth is right, or the other way around. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's a what are your goals and what do you like? So it's hard. I don't want to tell you how to blend out the edges if you want that. I don't know if you want that to be smooth or not. It completely depends on your goals. If you did want it smoother, it would just be more layering and then blending more with OMS is how I would do that. But it doesn't need it either. Like, it feels complete exactly how you have it. So this is why I always ask you guys, what are your goals? Because I don't know there. But the one thing I would say for certain is I would make the darks of the butterfly, like in here, get that even darker than what you've got. And that is like, I mean, here, watch, look how dark that is. That is almost black. It's so dark. So I would use like a dark magenta layered with black. That is dark. And that's the orange part of the wing. Can you see? I don't know. Can you guys see this little box here where that is on that? That is dark. Where yours is way up here. The artwork is here and more of the plum colors. So that would make a big difference, I think, in getting the depth, the overall depth. I would get some of the darks darker, but leave your lights where they, some of those light areas really light. That would be my main, like, the only thing I would adjust there. Beautiful, beautiful work, beautiful photo, all around, good work. Okay, 2:55. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. We were close enough. 5-minute early nap for me. Thank you guys for joining. Did we get, yeah, Clark Reinhardt said, conure equals scream chicken. So accurate. Yeah, they're allowed a chicken. How about making the next collage a watercolor pencil collage? Yeah, sure. We can absolutely do that. I like it. Now, I don't know. We'll see still. Let me write that down because I always forget. My stack of notes. Watercolor collage. We can certainly do that. And that will work too. So if someone wanted to follow along with Inktense, either would work. Let's see. Marty said, when doing a background in pastel and the subject in colored pencils, which should be done first, the background or the subject? I always do the background first. I just get that out of the way. It makes it easier for me to judge my values on the subject. So I like doing that background with the pastels first. Personal preference, you technically could do either, but I like the pastels first. And that way I can layer some of the pastels into the subject too as my base layer. So it works well. Linda said, thanks for the help. You're so awesome. Oh, thank you. I told so many people about you on my vacation. You are my inspiration. Oh, thank you. Kathleen said, thank you so much. Appreciate your help. You are welcome. Thanks for submitting. So let me know over on MeWe what you guys want. If you are wanting a website, because I don't know how many of you have websites that you want critiqued or YouTube channels. And when I talk about YouTube channels, I wouldn't even be watching the content. It would be hard for me to watch it and critique. So it would be more like your design, like your thumbnails, your descriptions, that sort of thing. And I wouldn't even say I'm an expert there, but websites that are easier for me to critique. So if that is something that you're interested in, let me know over on MeWe. You can post in the art group, wherever. But I need enough to make it a full stream. So I don't know if we have enough people interested in that. So let me know. If not, we will be doing our next collage is going to be watercolor pencil, which I'm kind of excited for because I haven't played with those in a while. And I've got good ones. Like I have Faber-Castell, I have Caran d'Ache, I've got Derwent. I like them all. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Thanks to our moderators. Their links to all their channels. We've got Joseph Fincham. We've got Nick, Edgar, Clark Fine Art, and Gypsy Heart. They all have, all except for Gypsy Heart, who's working on hers. But there are descriptions or links to their channels. Joseph and Clark Fine Art have both been live streaming, so that's really fun. I have to watch Clark's. Her name isn't Clark. Clark Fine Arts. I have not watched that lately, so I definitely need to watch some of hers. Anyway, I'm behind on everything. I'm so glad. Aquashello was a blast, but I'm so glad it's done because I feel like I can start getting caught up on some stuff now, like sleep. Cleaning my house. I get to clean my house tomorrow. I skipped last week and it drives me crazy. So anyway, thank you guys so much. No one cares about that information. I will be talking to you on MeWe this weekend, and otherwise I will see you. The next edited video will be on Tuesday. Bye. I don't know where my buttons are. I lost my buttons and my mind. Bye.